Hi there Waltineers, I'm Jack and this is DSNY Newscast, and today we have some breaking news regarding Disney's plans for the expansion to Frontierland at the Magic Kingdom. As you see, yesterday I had the opportunity of having a meeting with the Walt Disney Imagineering team behind this expansion project for the Cars area within Frontierland, and they shared a lot of new details. They also clarified a lot of other aspects about the project, and they also gave us new insight to how they're carefully thinking about making this thematically work within Frontierland. And so I want to share what was discussed in this meeting with all of you. And then also over on Disney Parks blog, we've got a brand new piece of artwork that's a map illustration of the layout of what this Cars area is going to be, which I want to dive into in greater depth. But where I want to begin is actually where this is going to be located. And obviously this is going to be replacing Rivers of America at the Magic Kingdom. And Disney has confirmed once again they're going to continue with this plan of removing Rivers of America. And with that being said, we do actually have a closure announcement, as it's going to be closing July 7th, 2025. And so that means that the last day of operations to go say one last goodbye to this whole area is Sunday, July 6th. So put that in your calendars now. And on that date, on July 7th, Riverboat, Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island will be closed. And they did specify that the construction walls are not going to be completely in place surrounding Rivers of America overnight. The next day, it's going to take them probably a week or two to get everything in place. And then the other thing to mention here is they've got Disney Starlight debuting on July 20th, a couple of weeks later. And you know the walkways that surround Rivers of America, those kind of bridge walkways, those are going to be remaining open, at least in the initial stages of construction. And that's really important because Disney's going to need as much viewing area as possible for this nighttime parade, especially in Frontierland, and it's also vital to be able to get to Tiana's Bayou Adventure via those walkways as well when the parade's going on. So just wanted to mention that. Then the other two things are the railroad and the riverboat. Now, Walt Disney World Railroad is going to continue operating during the construction of this Cars area and Villains Land. They're going to keep it operating, which is very good to hear because the railroad was closed for far too long, in my opinion, with the whole construction of the Tron roller coaster. And so as of July 7th, the railroad is going to switch to being a kind of shuttle back and forth between Main Street USA and the Storybook Circus station in Fantasyland up there, and it will go back and forth. And for those who have motion sickness going backwards, they're going to be switching out some of the benches, so therefore you'll be going forwards in whichever direction of travel you're going in. You'll have the opportunity to ride facing forward. And then in terms of a riverboat, I actually did ask about the fate of the riverboat. I have mentioned this in previous videos that I would like to see it repurposed and find a new home at Walt Disney World, so I had to ask about that. And they said that they don't have any official announcement about what's happening with the riverboat yet, but it is something they're going to be looking into, and I really hope that it does find a new home. Personally, I would like to see it over at the Port Orleans Riverside. I think it would be great over there, or maybe to the side of a wedding pavilion at the Grand Floridian. Either way, I think it would be great if they could reuse it and find a new home for it, because it's an important part of Walt Disney World history for that to be relocated. So no announcement yet, but hopefully, fingers crossed, in the future we'll hear something. But I do want to just very quickly address the fact that a lot of people don't want to see the removal of Rivers of America, and they're skeptical about what's replacing it. And I've got to say, from what we were shown in this meeting and what they walked us through in terms of creative, I'm convinced that this is going to thematically work now. As you see, last year in October, I did a video saying that if they go in the national parks direction of the American wilderness, it could be a way to seamlessly integrate this within Frontierland, and that is very much the creative direction they're going in. So I'm very optimistic about what this is going to bring to the Magic Kingdom, and I know a lot of people don't want to lose that body of water, but with the Magic Kingdom being the most visited park in the world, they do need more capacity. And although the body of water there of Rivers of America is beautiful to look at, obviously it's not guest walkable space, and the riverboat and Tom Sawyer Island are very low capacity attractions. And then this is also without mentioning the fact that this whole project will be something that's completely unique to the Magic Kingdom to come and experience, and there will still be Rivers of America over at Disneyland and Disneyland Paris and Tokyo Disney, but this will be something unique to come and visit Magic Kingdom to experience. And there's going to be a lot of nature, there's going to be a lot of water within this whole area that was not shown in the initial concept concept art that was released last August for this project, that overview concept art, it wasn't very clear to see how much water was going to be within this area. And as you see in this artwork, there's going to be cascading waterfalls, and there's going to be mud flats, and there's going to be streams, and just little ponds of water and stuff like that all around this land, kind of flowing around the perimeter of this national parks inspired area that you can see here. And you can see there's snow-capped peaks of Piston Peak within this area, which is obviously drawing inspiration from the Rocky Mountain region there. And then you've also got over near Big Thunder Mountain, they're going to be expanding those geysers with the whole Yellowstone National Park feel, and they're going to have rainbow pools and lots of geysers, which, by the way, are not just going to be able to be experienced from on the ride, but you'll be able to walk through that geyser field as well, which I think will add a lot to this area. And then lastly, there's just going to be a lot of foliage and tree cover and just that whole kind of national park vibe of like a Yosemite or Sequoia to this whole area. And they actually did confirm that they are drawing inspiration from the movie Planes, Fire and Rescue, because it's set within the adjacent Cars universe, but it isn't going to be directly replicating anything in that movie. So unlike Cars Land and Radiator Springs Races, where it's that movie come to life, this is something that's going to be completely original to the Magic Kingdom, but it's drawing inspiration from Piston Peak National Park in Planes, Fire and Rescue. And they also did speak about how they're looking at this from a national park perspective, the parkitecture, as they like to call it, of what they've been going on research trips for to try and make sure it feels authentic, instead of it being very cartoony like Radiator Springs and bringing that world of Pixar to life. They're trying to ground this in the realism of the national parks, but there will be a lot of references and Easter eggs to automotive design within the rockwork or, you know, certain parts of the architecture, but it's going to try and be subtly integrated into the land. And then they also spoke about how they've brought Grizzly Peak Airfield to life at Disney California Adventure. And this is actually something I said last year, that if they managed to do something like Grizzly Peak Airfield within Frontierland, I think that that will add a whole different aspect to the American wilderness and the American frontier of Frontierland. And they did say that Walt Disney World's Frontierland isn't meant to be the Old West, you know, the Wild West. It's meant to be more the American wilderness, as it has so many different areas of Frontierland. And so that's what they're doing. They're trying to blend this section into a bit of Big Thunder Mountain, into a little bit of the North Woods area where Country Bear Jamboree and stuff like that. They're trying to make it all thematically fit and tie it together into a more cohesive Frontierland. But then we come to the whole Cars influence into this whole thing, because obviously that's a major marketing factor for this whole thing as well. And they're going to have obviously Piston Peak with the snow-capped mountains there, and they're going to also have a massive geyser that's going to be called Old Tankful, which is obviously a play on Old Faithful at Yellowstone National Park, and that will be erupting periodically throughout the day, so that will add some kineticism and some energy to the land as well. And then this triangle shaped building that was shown in the artwork last year, this is actually going to be like a welcome centre or a visitor centre for the national park, and this will house the entrance and the queue for the main ride in the land, which is the rally race ride around the land. And they're also going to be keeping the riverboat dock building, the one that's just off Liberty Square. They're going to be keeping that intact, and they didn't mention this in the meeting, but that could maybe work as some sort of national park style lookout post or something like that. But either way, it's good to know that that's remaining as well. And then also Imagineering gave us an exclusive, which is this character in the bottom right hand corner of the map is a completely new original character for this Cars area, and this character is called Ranger J Autobahn Woodlaw. And if that name rings a bell, it's because this is based off the character from the 1950s Disney animated shorts of the character called J Autobahn Woodlaw, which, if you remember, was in some Donald Duck animated shorts in the 1950s, and it was a ranger character for the national parks in that. So they've taken that and they've kind of carified and created a new character called Ranger J Autobahn Woodlaw for this new Cars area. And another exclusive here is that this character will be appearing in animatronic form within the pre-show for the rally race ride. And he'll be talking about the importance of the rally race and the history of it within the actual queue itself. And then obviously we'll be going on the rally race. Now personally, I also think it would be quite funny if in the pre-show they refer to him as a kind of parked ranger, because obviously he's a car and he's in a national park, it's a parked ranger there. But it's just nice to know that we're getting new original characters for this whole Cars area, which is the sort of thing which, if they're going to do IP within the parks, this is the way to do it, I personally feel, is to actually bring some originality and play with the story and expand the universe in this way. Obviously, there are ways that you can just replicate things like bringing Radiator Springs to life at DCA, but with this, I really like the direction they're going with for Frontierland now. Then a couple of last things I want to mention here, and that's sightlines and sound bleed. Now, they are very aware that Liberty Square is the entrance to Frontierland, and that's staying as it is, and they don't want you to be able to see anything, you know, like the piston peak of the snow-capped peaks from Liberty Square. They want to keep the integrity of that theming intact. It's a very important thing to Imagineering, and so you won't be able to see that. All you'll be able to see is a cascading waterfall behind the old riverboat dock building there. There'll be a cascading waterfall, a bit like Grizzly Peak Airfield has with the Grizzly Peak waterfall. But they're being very careful with their sight lines of trying to make sure things are contained. So therefore, as you also walk around this new area, there is that kind of sense of discovery and adventure, because that's what the national parks are like. Every time you take a new turn, you're kind of brought to this new majestic kind of vista. At least when I went to Yosemite National Park, that's how it was for me. And also sound bleed. I know a lot of people have said it's going to ruin Frontierland and Liberty Square to hear cars whizzing by and talking and stuff like that. And I was very much concerned about this as well, but that was brought up as a question that was asked. And they did mention that they are using all sorts of tools in their arsenal, like background music. Obviously, they can lower sound effects from the cars at certain parts of the track, and also using the landscape itself to act as kind of a sound barrier to try and dampen the sound. And so they're considering that very carefully when it comes to Haunted Mansion and Liberty Square for that sound bleed to go into other parts of the land. So they are thinking about that already. And then the last thing I wanted to say is it's not going to be renamed. Frontierland is going to be still the name of this land, Frontierland. I know at D23, Meta made the joke Frontierland, but they're not renaming Frontierland to Frontierland. They did say that this whole area will have a name eventually, but it won't be a rebranding of Frontierland. And so that's everything that we found out about this project. They didn't talk about the actual attraction for Rally Race in any way. They'll share those details at a later stage, but we do know it's going to be mostly an outdoor attraction from just looking at that map. And, you know, I do have my reservations about an outdoor attraction in Florida with the torrential downpours of rain that we get in Florida. So bit concerned about that, but we'll find out more about what that ride is going to be like and what it's going to entail at a future point. But that's everything we've got for today. But now it's over to you, Waltineers. I would like to know, what are your thoughts and opinions on this whole Cars area themed to this whole national park, Piston Peak National Park within Frontierland? Now you've heard all these extra details, and how you feel about Rivers America going away and this whole new area being built with all these extra waterways and waterfalls and different environmental elements within Frontierland. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and check out the rest of the videos on this channel. And also, very quickly, I'm also going to be doing another video later on this week, so stay tuned for that. And I'd like to say a massive thank you to the official Waltineer Club over on Patreon for always supporting this channel. It's greatly appreciated. And I'd like to give a big shout out to the official Waltineer Gold members that you can see here on the screen, as well as Waltineer Diamond members JC Russell, Justin Tupper, Tim Parsons, and Clive Simmons. And with that being said for today, I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.